Welcome, everybody. This is part one of 2 recordings that's coming out to you for a brand new unit. My name is Vicky Hannah, and I'm going to be running this session for you. This is for the Diploma of Youth Work for the unit CHCPRP001. The unit that we are doing, the unit code here, is develop and maintain networks and collaborative partnerships. The code being CHC PRP001. Following this recording, you're going to hear from your peers from class. We're going to be discussing what will we do with the client, how will we put some wraparound supports, what networks will we engage with, and then what kind of partnerships do you think we're going to need to put in place to be able to make sure that we've got a really good support plan for this client. In this part of the information that we're going to have sent out to you, what I wanted to do was to go over the actual skills, the practitioner side of it. I wanted to let you know that the number of tasks that you've got, and I've got more about that in our second recording. But for this one, I wanted to give us an overview about how do we go about doing that, and then walk you through some of that in your learners portal as well. So for this particular assessment task, we have a role play, which is your practitioner skill. There's 2 role plays for this unit. It'll ask you to go to First Access site to get some information. It's part of your instructions. You're going to be given a young person who is your client. You're going to be given a role. So your client will be Lynn Lee, and you will play the role of the support worker, Tori Waller. It's broken into 3 parts, this assessment. Part A, you must identify first how First Access and Lynn Lee's needs may be met through a collaborative practice and networking with other services. You'll need to demonstrate that in Part A. Part B, you must contact a service representative identified in Part A after you and Lynn Lee have decided what that might be and initiate the collaborative relationship. And then Part C, you must meet with the organisation representative identified in Part B. So you're going to work with your client, going to come up with a plan. You're going to use someone from that plan that you worked out in the beginning part of it. And then you're going to speak to that organisation that came out of that second part of the session that you had with your client. So what you're going to need is you're going to need access to an individual support plan, Lynn Lee, provided as a supporting document. You're going to need the email template, and you'll get that from the First Access website. Just take you back there so you know how to find that. So if we go back to the beginning, logging in. In the second part of this, I want you to watch both parts of the recordings. I actually guide you there, and I take you into First Access as well. But at the end of that, at the end of the discussion that we have with our learners, so don't rush and worry about it. Watch all of the resources and then circle back. There's different ways to learn. What you read and then what you see. You may be one of those learners that needs to see it be done and then do it. You may be very tactile or kinesthetic, where you've just got to work your way through or navigate the way around the learner's porthole. And during week 1, we do cover this a lot for our new learners. If you're an experienced learner, then this is where you're going to find the information and the instructions for your client. So you're going to be Tori Waller, who happens to be a staff member that works for First Access. So your instructions are very clear. It will ask you to review the individual support plan. That will be your link in there. it says, read this email from John Ford, who is the head of care at the organisation that you work for. And John's doing an internal referral for you as Tori Waller, the care worker. So it's coming from, it's going to you from John, the date and time. So it's just, you put in what works for you. So it's the 11th of August, 2025 today when I'm doing this recording. If you were doing it today, that would be the date that you could put in. Subject, collaboration to meet Lynn Lee's needs. So John's telling you what he's looking for. As you know, you recently met with 16-year-old Lynn Lee and her mother May to prepare an individual support plan to meet Lynn's needs. Can I now, as you ask you, that should definitely be asked, you to please complete the following. Summarise each of Lynn's goals as outlined in her individual support plan. Rank each of her goals in order of priority. Review the services offered by First Access and determine to what extent First Access services can meet Lynn's goals. So what can happen internally, and then what else? And then outline at least 3 gaps, and that'll be why you're going to refer her externally, because the gap is First Access does not do that. And then you're going to describe what service providers and groups that can help Lynn's needs, and then how can collaborating with these service providers support Lynn's goals, your own professional development, and First Access's performance. How can we be better as a worker and better as an organisation by collaborating with some of these other providers? And as we have discussed at a recent team meeting, this is what John is telling you, the worker, Tori. It is felt that First Access has some needs impacting our service delivery. Identify and explain at least 2 organisations' needs and rank them in order of priority. So John's given you a lot to do. Every one of those 1 to 6 steps. And of course, you need to identify and explain at least 2 organisation needs and rank them in order. So the person that's going to come in and do the role play next week for us in class will have done all of this, but we're going to ask them to talk about that email and how they put that together in the support plan. It won't just be them talking to their supervisor, John Ford. So you must email John back, you must summarise each of these. Here's your instructions. Name the service, describe how collaborating with the service providers can support Lynn's goals, your own professional development, and help First Access. And they're your requirements. And what you must do is create an email to respond to John Ford, of head of care. So you'll address him, you will use his email, all of that has been provided. And then if you need to, you can add some extra notes as well. So you might have a website or more than one website for some of those service providers that you're going to put in. You might mention that you've done that in your email as well and let John know. But John's asking you to do something to help a client, and he's been very specific of what it is that he wants you to do. Let's take it a little bit further and have a look at what part B is. So it's saying here that you need to access the following documents: the individual support plan, so that's there, goes over the email. It's asking you to do that. And then, of course, part A and part B are linked. And then access the following documents. Sorry, come back up there. And then part C. So 1, 2, and 3 parts to this. So access the following. So here is the individual support plan for Lynn Lee. It's directing you to go to First Access for the privacy and confidentiality policy and procedure. So DR3, you'll find it under that HR4, Network and Partnering Policy and Procedures, which means how you are expected to conduct yourself when you're networking and partnering, what you can and cannot do. CGT1 is the email template. That's the one that you need to be replying to John Ford on. Access to email submitted in Part B. So that was John Ford's email to you. And then access another learner or a volunteer to play the role of a service representative. And that service representative is Ivanka. So the role play instructions here, this is for the person that is playing that role. Just see if I can bring that up for us. It'll be sluggish. Hoping you'll be able to see that. So it's clear here, task 2, part C is the role play. Part A is the collaborative session with your client and going through the email and then identifying some others. And then, of course, you've got the service provider team leader and someone next week, Izzy, is going to be doing the role play, but others may do that as well. You'll play the role of team leader within a community service environment, and the assessor will advise the name of the organisations and its key objectives and services. So in this one, someone is going to play the role of the team leader, Ivana Kratz, for Izzy. So that could be someone from our class, but this is a role play that doesn't have to be done with an assessor present. So you could have a member, like a colleague, a family or a friend, could read the instructions and play this role. So your role is to oversee the community service team when negotiating the collaboration method. You will advise that you need a formal partnership as best, and you need to guide them in that when you advise as well. So that's the purpose that sits behind that as the service team leader, Ivana Kratz. So read through the instructions. It guides you on doing that, but we want you to join us next week where you will see somebody who's going to be doing that role play, and hopefully someone from class may be sitting in that space to assist Izzy and come up with the best possible plan that suits Lynn Lee. So you'll need to have read everything about the instructions from task 2 before you go in and do that role play. So we have some amazing role play resources, and you can see that email behind me, lso@hayderinstitute.edu.au. Here, LSO stands for Learner Support Officer. So they'll guide you into finding the resources. If you've got any questions, go to them first. And then if there's something that they're not sure about, they'll actually bring it back down to either myself or some of the other trainers in that space. So what I want you to do is just stay tuned because we're going to be doing a part 2, which will be listening to some of our learners just on a hypothetical, collaborate. What would you do if you were in that session? What gaps might there be for supporting a young person in a hypothetical scenario? It's not Lynn Lee, but it's about how do we go about that? What things do we need to consider? And even have some discussions around other things that you agree on and maybe not agree on as well. Keep in mind that there's another role play that is task 4. So thanks, everybody. I'll record more for you in your part 2. So I ask you to join us there. Stay tuned.